Silencer Shop Authority time. Well, hello there. What are you? A lawmaker? A ping pong paddle? An Auto 9? No, not even close, nor a cigar. This is Silencer Co.'s Maxim 9, the integrally suppressed 9mm handgun. And yes, Mr. Beard, it does take Glock mags. As with all of my reviews / overviews of firearms and suppressors, I always like to give basic dimensions, so if you're watching the video, you have the measurements here and you're not having to go off to the manufacturer's website to grab them or somewhere else. The basic dimensions of the Maxim 9 are as follows. In the long configuration that you see here with all of the baffles, we are at 10.75 inches. If we remove the two baffles and go to the short config, 9.54. Height is approximately 5.5 inches without the magazine base plate. Our widest point on the gun is near the slide release on both sides and approximately 1.55 inches. The current weight on this Maxim 9 with the empty magazine is 2 pounds 10 ounces. As a quick size comparison, we have a Glock 19 Gen 4 MOS with a hollow sun on top. And down here we have a Beretta M9A3 with an Osprey 45 suppressor. So you can see the overall package is really not much larger than a 19. The Maxim 9 suppressor component is made from aluminum, the slide material is steel, and the frame is polymer. Like our SIG 320 M17 and the Ruger 5.7, it has an internal chassis, and that is the serialized part. The slide cover has very deep and aggressive serrations that work well with gloves. Control-wise, we have ambidextrous slide release that is actually very easy to actuate on both sides. The magazine release can be switched out for lefties. We have no manual safety, but we have the flat face trigger, which includes the internal blade safety or dingus. The top of the suppressor is cut to accept red dot sights of varying manufacturers, but adapter plates are sold separately. On the bottom portion of the suppressor are 3 key mod slots for mounting different types of accessories. If you want to run anything that runs a Picatinny rail, they have a key mod Picatinny rail attachment that you can put on there. The barrel on the Maxim 9 is approximately 4.38 inches and is fixed and has a 1 in 10 twist for stabilizing all those super heavy subsonic 9mm projectiles. We have very good chamber support, although most of us probably will not be shooting +P or +P ammunition through the Maxim, but it's good to know that the chamber is fully supported. The integral, or however you correctly say that word, somebody in the comments will definitely correct me that I'm saying it wrong, suppressor also contains a serial number and is located on the rearmost piece on the underside. In long configuration, there are a total of 6 pieces that make up this suppressor. Our exit hole is approximately 404 thousandths. Field stripping this gun is quite easy, as military arms and many others have shown. You'll simply take your finger or blunt object and push on this lever in the back, and you'll flip this lever up, exposing the recoil rods. You'll pull the entire slide back and tilt it up, and there it is. Here is your reciprocating slide piece, your recoil assembly here, and that's pretty much field stripping it. You can drive this pin out, which they go over in the manual to further disassemble this portion for cleaning if needed. Silencer Co. includes all accessories to run in the short config. You will essentially be subtracting 2 baffles from the system and using the supplied shorter rods to reassemble. They do give you a Allen wrench to do so. You have 2 bolts up front. Obviously make sure your gun is clear before putting your hand in front of the muzzle here. Sometimes when disassembling, the rod will actually come off with the little screw right here. You'll take your frontmost assembly here, and this piece right here that contains a baffle. These baffles have screws in them, so you can probably take them apart off these aluminum components and clean them and swap the order around so you can prolong the life. So you take off this baffle and this baffle, set them aside. Here are your rods. You should be able to remove them by hand, hopefully. This piece also does come off the gun, and Top Shot Dustin actually shot this gun like this with no baffles or anything on it. So you take your short rods, make sure you get them in there the right way. Sometimes it helps just to take this piece off and visually look in there and thread those guys in there. You can install this front piece, this baffle right here, and this guy. Grab your front retaining screws. And bam! Now you're set up for short configuration. When reassembling the slide, you just put it on a slight angle right behind there, push it forward, and you push your button back down to push your recoil rods forward, and then push the lever down, and there you go. Because of our time and scheduling constraints, we don't really rent the sound meter from Aimed Research anymore, but I feel that my mic setup represents gunshots fairly well, and you can tell a definite sound difference with various subsonic and supersonic ammo in the Maxim 9. And in comparison to the Osprey 45 that we had mounted on the M9A3. Alright, we have our Maxim 9 in long configuration versus a Beretta M9A3 with an Osprey 45. We have 3 rounds of 115, which is supersonic, 3 rounds of 147, 3 rounds of 158, and then 3 rounds of 165. I remembered to put the Nielsen booster spring in the Osprey 45, so hopefully we get cycling this go around. So supersonic first. This should be subsonic. Alright, same test, but now the Maxim 9 is in the shortened configuration with the 2 baffles removed. 3 rounds of supersonic, and then the rest are subsonic in heavier weights. The gun will get pretty warm after firing a full 32 round string, especially up front by the retaining pin here, but it's nowhere near as hot as what a 5.56 can would get after firing 30 rounds through it. There are quite a few things that I found in the positive bucket on the Maxim 9. I like the grip texturing. It's fairly aggressive, and the pattern is somewhat of a Morse code and contains phrases such as "fight the noise" and other suppressor-related phrases. Not only does it take Glock mags, which are tried, true, drop-free, and cheap, the sights are Glock pattern, and the factory sights are night sights. If you do choose to run an RMR on here and want to co-witness, finding a set of sights that will do that will be cake. I like the ambidextrous slide release that actually works for us lefties. You can see that I can actually use it from either side with an empty magazine in there with ease, compared to, say, my Ruger 5.7 that after 600 rounds I can still barely use the slide release. Noise suppression is very good. Although, as mentioned in the shooting footage, I gotta give the slight edge overall quietness to the Osprey 45 on the M9A3. Talon Sai mentions in his video that the gun balances very well, and I would have to concur. I mean, it looks big and very unwieldy, but when you handle it, it doesn't feel like a 2.5 pound gun. Holsters are produced for this in a few different configurations. Now for the not so hot. I'm almost certain this is the same Maxim 9 that Top Shot Dustin had, and I was getting light primer strikes, using what you would generally consider military surplus, i.e. Winchester 9mm NATO, IMI 158 grain subsonic, and some Winchester service grade 115 grain. I was getting quite a few light primer strikes. On my second outing, I switched to Fiocchi and Freedom Munitions only, and had 100% fire rate. My total round count for this overview review was 250 rounds, and I see that others are having similar issues online. Trigger, as Dustin mentions, is not great at all. Our pull weight, if you go towards the edge of this flat face trigger, is about 6.5 pounds. If you go more towards the middle where your trigger finger naturally rests, it was over 8 pounds. Show you the reset here. It's a very loud trigger, but the reset itself is pretty quiet, and it's not very tactile in terms of feel either. I do have a few suggestions for improvement on the Maxim 9. That's why I'm kind of here, is to play with this thing and offer my opinion and maybe some suggestions for improvement that Silencer Co. may look at. Besides the trigger, I would like to see a little bit of undercut on the trigger guard, as well as a little magwell flaring for better mag insertion. I would also like to suggest a wrench flat or possibly an internal or external Torx or hex on the rods for the suppressor, so in the event that they get stuck in there from carbon buildup or from tightening too tight, you can use a little bit of mechanical advantage to get them out, so you're not throwing a pair of channel locks or vice grips on them and marring them all to hell. As we close, a big thank you to the Silencer Shop Authority program. These videos are not meant to be all-encompassing or long-term, but they're done with the intent to help collect information on your potential purchase, especially since the phony baloney government really discourages us by buying these by making us wait forever. As always, thank you for watching, and until next time, catch you at the range. Which includes the internal blade safety, or dingus.
Is that seriously what they call it?
Well, a lot of people call it that.